as an example, and it's not just himself, but as an example that we all can how do you say speak to. What Noble Drew Ali did over 100 years ago has served its purpose, which is why we're having this conversation.
Facts.
Has served its purpose, which is why Rod did what he did. But
Facts.
whether it came from him or anyone else, the principle of that claim still stands, still stood. It needed someone to recognize it. And this is what people need to understand. People keep looking at what they think is images, what some other idea of what they think is supposed, you're supposed to come in some kind of silk suit, with 5 diamonds around your nose type thing. Well, guess what? Brother Rod come, and guess what? He's so down to earth that it makes some people feel uncomfortable. He's so real about it and blunt about it and alpha about it that it makes a lot of people that don't have testicles uncomfortable. And rather than admit that they haven't done their job, they want to attack the messenger. However, he ain't worried about it. And guess what? Neither am I. Get the work done. We don't need no damn titles. Thank you so much.
Listen, okay,
another thing is different if I came to toot my own horn. I'm not here to toot. I'm not telling everybody this is about me. This is about the collective. Right.
Part of it is, Brother Rod, that they're some, not all. There are many that really can relate, but there are others that say, well, what is his nationality? If you're not called, they feel like if you're not identifying yourself as a Moor, like you just said, I'm not a Moor, but I study science, then what are you? Who are you? Then you have no part of us. And that's what I'm seeing. That's one of the things I'm seeing.
Again, Doc, let's look at this. They keep looking at the pedigree. They're mixing pedigree with corporate activity. They don't understand that the Moorish Science Temple is a corporate action done by political necessity. It does not supersede, nor does it give the pedigree. The pedigree of Moor, which is just short, is a short term for Amrak and Amaru, which is just generally referring to all of the Bantu, Mandinka, Phoenicia, etc., Hikupta, or Egyptian people, or what you call the Asiatic Africans around the world. It's a general cover. It itself is not directly itself a nationality in the sense that people think it is. It is a word that covers generally all of the African clans in general. Now,
jurisdiction of Admiralty law.
It's a jurisdictional designation. Now, the deal of it is, even when Drew Ali set up the platform of Moorish Americans, that's to distinguish the birthright clans of the Maghreb, or what you call the Western world, of the original people, Aboriginal people, distinguished from other Moors around the world, some of who have been trying to make claims here that don't have a claim. It is a political distinction, and people need to know that. It doesn't make you who you are. You're already who you are. That's it. Those things were done by political necessity, and people need to understand that.
As far as
their purpose.
Well, there was a question about in the comments, with a question about Canadian Black Canadians, whether or not this or was Canadian law different.
Canadian is a corporate entity too.
That's also been defunct.
And you mentioned earlier Barbados.
Let's be clear. Canada Corporation and the United States Corporation have the same international number. They both are property of the Queen. They are not really the organic land. And people need to make the distinction between the organic land and the organic people and the corporate land names, which is what Rod is trying to tell everybody. We've been telling people that, but they don't get it. They think that we're rejecting their nationality. When people don't understand, nationality only indicates political, jurisdictional venues.
So when you come from a superior jurisdiction, it's like the equivalent of driving a bulldozer through the courthouse.
Yes.
Just leveling the courthouse with a bulldozer. You come in with a superior jurisdiction and the first right of claim to a birthright that's a blood tie to the land that they can't interrupt, and they know who we are from the day we born.
And that
means what they tell you.
That means the organic distinguished from the corpse or the dead, which is why Drew Ali gave you the allegory of black, according to science, mean death. He was not talking from an etymological point of view. He's talking from a social engineering principle. And so people need to, this is why he said every temple must have a school. These things were supposed to be taught. They were not done. However, the world don't stop just because we don't carry out what we're supposed to do. And this is where, so nature herself steps in and starts making her assignments, as usual. We've never been left without guidance. It's not what you want, it's what you need.
They say that it's going to be bitter to the mouth, but sweet to the stomach. You ain't going to like to hear it. It's a double-edged sword to cut both ways.
I do.
Right. So I believe that people have a 100% right to disagree with everything I say.
Absolutely. Because
I believe that people got 100% right to agree with me if they choose to.
Because they are creators and makers of their own, just like us.
Right.
The message or principle is presented for people to ascend who want to ascend.
There you go.
That's why the ancient African rule is this. Every man, every woman, and every child must confess their own and worship under their own vine and fig tree. That means the spirit man. Why? Because even children are not excused, which means it is a metaphysical and a spiritual issue. It is not an age issue. It is not a time issue. It is a placement cycle issue, i.e. of the spirit man and not the flesh man.
So when I pull up the contracts now, this is a Jubilee year.
Yeah.
If you want to go into what the Jubilee year means for the contract, I explained it already, but I just let it hear you explain it.
all things got to be returned.
Yeah.
All things got to be returned. Circle 7. Cycle 7.
And I am number 7. I am number 7 from the 313. That equals 7.
I do.
Right? Born with 3 sevens in my head because I'm the 7th seed of the 7th seed of a 7th seed. Right? So with the blood right and numerical value, they already know that I had the right to restore and reclaim the land for the people and for us to get to work restoring our family structures back, where all of the clans can then worship under their own vine and fig tree like it's supposed to be. We fought to integrate with somebody that didn't have nothing to do with us. Then none of that shit had nothing to do with us, and that's why Noble Drew Ali needed us to learn civics. Because if you don't know civics, you will never know what these people are doing that they ain't got no business doing, and you won't know how to get rid of them. You
won't make discernment. You don't know how to separate the wheat from the chaff.
And so
you don't know the issue, and this is the political issue that people need to understand about nationality. Nationality was put in place politically in order for people to make what is called the diversity argument, so they could recognize that they're the heirs, distinguished from what they assumed it was. People's concepts about nationality placement has been incorrect. It's not something that needed to be kept. It is a political action.
From what I'm seeing, how people are looking at nationality and the application to become a national, they're looking at diplomatic status under a corporate jurisdiction. They're not looking at a certain age de jure birthright.
Right, exactly.
Right. So they're trying to use the system and work within the system that's designed to trap you at every turn.
You can't. It's de facto. All designed in the corporate de facto venue is to steal birthright. The issue of the nationality is brought up for them to expose themselves. And then once you understand that, you understand the nationality issue is for your pedigree, birthright, and reclaiming of your lost estate, being the proper heirs and the true Al-Moroccans distinguished from the corporate. And this is what many have not gotten. However, the nations of the world, or the political venues around the world, all the nations around the world are now using the principles, not that constitution, but the principles of the honor, honesty, constitution principle that was adopted by them to restore the republic platforms so they can get back to their organic selves on the land.
And that was the reverse engineering going backward. Because first, before we can assert tribal rights in the crash site, the 10 square miles known as DC, we had to first seize the flag of the Admiralty jurisdiction, and by replacing it with the law of the land, by occupying Pelosi's desk with no friends. That's the law of the land. That's taking you back to the republic.
Exactly.
Then, now we have to take the 10 square miles that the republic claimed, and now we have to claim it as indigenous by establishing a totem pole.
And it's called aboriginal title, aboriginal claim that supersedes all other claims. It supersedes all deeds or any other instrumentality created under the corporate structure, all of which are dead.
Right. So I posted already for them to see when we posted the totem pole to seize DC, because that was the only territory that was in dispute, and that was the corporate jurisdiction of the United States. Everything outside of that was also assumed jurisdiction that wasn't really operating according to the law of the land. It was operating under salvage law and admiralty jurisdiction.
Yes.
So when you have the flag of the land, then you have the totem pole, you put it together, that's the organic people of the land using their system to overthrow the artificial system that don't belong here.
And this is where, when Drew Ali set up the Moorish Temple of Science, not the Moorish Science Temple of America, Moorish Temple of Science, Civic platform, those things were supposed to be taught to the people in a civic manner so that they could recognize their relationship to the government, or what they assumed to be government, and discover the reality that they weren't the government, and that we had relinquished our responsibility and given up our birthright under ignorance and under playing around, etc. However,
more than anything else, being lied to and making deals with $5 Indians claiming they was us.
Exactly.
See, they brought them over here as POWs, and they made agreements with them and replaced us on the Trail of Tears when they assassinated us with a paper genocide.
Yep.
Right. They changed our legal designation in the paperwork. Was that Andrew Jackson?
Mm-hmm.
Right. When they was doing that, that's right there to confuse all of the outcome.
And this is why
one thing they can't get around is the blood and the right. And I got the blood and the right to go in and be the family redeemer for my sisters, And all of the sisters that's part and party to the claim that chose to use me as the family redeemer to redeem the rightful jurisdictional position in natural law and override the admiralty jurisdiction of a de facto corporation.
Yes, because competent
there's a lot of legalese, but we have to know the legalese because that's where they deceived us the most.
Exactly. And this is why it's so important to spend more time teaching and sharing those principles of I, self, law, and master, and that is the principle, the metaphysical principles of Radun, and not the creed principles of Islam that people assume that is meant. It means I, self, law, and master. That's taking back your lost estate. It has nothing to do with bowing down and praying to nothing. It has to do with reinstating your connection with nature, your connection with the land, and the principles laid down by our forefathers based on our obligation to send them principles back on the land with the people in the culture, always being careful that the 7th generation after us is protected with those same principles so that they can be passed down to the next 7 in cycles. It's our obligation. And so therefore, the women must step up and stop playing this, this church game that they've been playing for these last 100 years and get back into the right state of mind and use that womb properly. And this is back to why we did the applied science of the number 9 years ago. And, even with the backlash that we've gotten from that over the years, in due time, I knew that a number of women would begin to recognize what the message really was and step back into themselves. But they've been spending so much time trying to be somebody that they're not and not recognizing that whatever they do charges the whole nativity or the whole birth, i.e. the nation collective, etc. And so in order to fix the nation, you got to fix the womb. In order to fix the womb, you got to fix the chambers of heaven, which is the mind. And therefore, they got to go back to those metaphysical principles of both Hermetic law and the laws of Ma'at that they've been talking loosely but not practicing.
Well, a lot of them like to sound deep when they use a lot of that Pan-Africanism and Egyptology. They've learned a few hieroglyphic words, and they can use that to get a nice check, right? Because if you sound like you know what you're talking about, and you can ask for some money. That's why I don't ask for no money. If they give me some, they give me some. Right? That ain't got nothing to do with me.
Because birthright can't be sold.
I put your CASHAPP up there. You did not want it up there. I put it up there.
Because the servant is worthy of his hire.
Appreciate you both. So.
Yeah. And the other deal is, I'm glad that when he started talking about or making it very clear, that birthright can't be sold. You can't put a price on it. And if you're doing a platform, like say, if you're presenting a service, a servant is worthy of his hire. When it comes to issues of birthright, you can't put a lien on it. If you do, you're dirty. And people need to understand when he's talking about, or when he's properly critiquing different issues of paperwork where people are selling paperwork, he's absolutely telling the truth. It's not for sale. This is even why over the years, Dr. G, when it came to making reversion of estate statements for the consciousness of the people, why I put those files on the flash drive and we would give it out freely, because remember, as years ago, we were making aberrations of jurisdiction, challenging the jurisdictions of these claimants, etc. And then people were taking it and selling it. It's not for sale. It's to be sealed and claimed. An estate, a proper estate, cannot be sold, or it cannot be put a lien upon it. It must be claimed by a proper and competent heir. And those principles go all over the planet in relationship to heirship. And that nature of that right of claim is really what God is trying to tell the people. And they shouldn't be mad. They should be happy.
Well, they have the problem because now notice
because they don't understand.
You didn't flinch when he said, "I'm not a Moor." And in the chat, some of them are having all kinds of hissing.
He's talking about the club concept that people keep promoting under the Moors. See, the deal, what he's saying, if you don't mind, Rod.
Go ahead. That's flow.
See, his argument is the idea that people have been taking the Moorish movement as a club organization that makes you what you are by pedigree. The platform is only for communication of information. It can't make you. You already are who you are. People, and this is back to people really not even understanding government, not understanding corporate entities, not understanding trust positions, etc. Which is why over the years, as you already know, Doc, when we talk in many of our, over the years, our conversations, so many different things that we could get into, a lot of different information. This is why over the years, I've always been redundant on the civic issue, because that's, if you don't break the root of the problem, I don't care what other information you give to people, they ain't going nowhere with it. All you do is scatter their brains. It's sort of like giving people a bunch of cars with no keys and no batteries and acting like you gave them something. It's a distraction. We're broken mostly, although it's in many spiritual ways, a lack of culture and knowing the real culture. We're broke in the manner that our people keep on participating in political platforms when they don't know politics. They keep voting when they don't know that they're not a part of what they're voting for. They keep on fighting to be a part of something that is actually the opposite board of themselves.
Ain't got nothing to do with us.
Not at all. The only thing that they have to do with you is a FOFR issue of them being what you call an interregnum FOFR occupational government who has obligations according to international law, which they have breached. Not only that, they're bankrupt and they got no business doing any activity whatsoever on any level. However, the people themselves haven't stepped up because all their leadership, for the most part, has been compromised. And thankfully, a few people have stepped up in spite of it all to speak on behalf of the people being in proper person, proper air, proper blood, and claiming the estate. To dismiss the belligerent FOFers, i.e., who don't even have right to even talk anymore.
So the prophets say when you open your mouth, the assumption of ignorance becomes proven, right? Because when you can claim to know something, but if you don't know the path to walk, you don't know the questions to raise, you don't know the jurisdictional challenges, then you just talking, right? What we talking about today is, regardless of whether I call myself a Moor or not, I'm growth and development, right?
You'll feel the blood.
And that has nothing to do with me exercising my right as organic man on the land among the collection of the elders, because I'm an elder now. And as my first job as an elder is to try to compel the people to wake up and see what's going on in front of y'all face before you get caught with a culture shock of a great magnitude when things switch and you wasn't paying attention, right? It's the same as when they was trying to tell them they was free in the story of the Juneteenth. That's what we doing now. The system is over with. You don't have to agree with me no more, but it's going to be proven. And everything I said that I did, that I gave instructions to be done, seize the Vatican, seize Buckingham Palace, seize the military industrial complex, seize Wall Street, seize the International Stock Exchange, the World Monetary Fund, the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, to seize all of the corporate holdings of all of the secret societies that was implicit in the human trafficking network, right? All this is already recorded, and y'all gonna see whether y'all agree with me or not. Taj taught me civics well enough to know what I need to do with the blood and the right to reclaim the land. That was his duty that he assumed from Noble Drew Ali. That was passed to him. We ain't talking on the land, through the land, man to man. He didn't have to sit at the table with Noble Drew Ali for him to give him his march's instructions. And he did it flawlessly because, as he just said, and I said earlier, I've been watching them say the same thing for 50 years, redundantly. I say he got the patience of a saint, right? Because they've been asking the same question for 50 years. No diversity in the questions he's being asked. Therefore, he got to keep telling y'all the answer to the shit he answered last week, the week before that, the month before that, and the 10 years before that. He got to keep answering the same question. What do black mean in law? What do white mean in law? What is the de jure position? What is the de facto position? All that, we know that. We know all that now. What you gonna do about it, and do you know what to do about it,
right,
is where we at now.
We need
because
actions. We need actions.
Right. It's because I studied the civics that Taj taught. I knew when Noble Drew Ali said, I'm gonna leave these people in power long enough for you to run the government, and I know I can single-handedly run the government better than all these bastards put together, then he must have been talking about now, and he must have been talking about me, because I don't see nobody else making the proper claim in their proper persona, in their proper jurisdiction as the de jure on the land in face of the de facto government. That's an integral government established under false pretenses and conjure magic, Babylonian blood magic, Babylonian money magic, and Babylonian sex magic under the rights of men are sin, right? I can take the shit all the way back to where it started at.
On with it.
Right? And they came from Nibiru to earth, from heaven to earth they came, Nephilim, they fell down, they came down here on Mount Sinai, the mountain of sin, right? The holy Mount Zion of Yahweh, and Yahweh is Enlil, Lord of the skies, who took Instagram limits. They be on some bullshit. All of this shit be on some bullshit. All these motherfucking politicians, police, judges, these motherfuckers got to go. They don't belong here. Fuck the police with all capital letters. The police is a slave catching organization. Always have been, always gonna be. They was created to catch runaway slaves, and they still catching runaway slaves to this day. And the ones they can't catch, they killing them. So, fuck the bullshit. Big Mama said this shit is over. It's a wrap. So, give y'all a little insight of what I'm talking about. I just came back from the store to get me some coffee. And I was sitting, was in there mixing my coffee, my phone rang. And the phone rang, it's the sister, but she channeling. Now, Big Mama got a very, very specific way of talking, so you can't pretend that the channel message is. Hold on one second. I'm trying to get this over to my Facebook so I can share it to the people over there. Alright, so I have to switch accounts on here. Anyway, so